Jane Velez Mitchell, Jane Unchained, very excited to be part of something called the UP Convergence. When I first heard about it, I had no idea what it was. It turns out it's this incredibly fantastic, futuristic, check this out. Does that look interesting? Every single one of those colors is an entire room of sorts where you can go in and learn infinite amounts of information about how to transform our world. Jon Ramer and Becky Suzik are behind this, and we'll talk to Dr. Rao as well. Tell us what it is, Jon, because a lot of people are fascinated, but they don't really know exactly what the UP Convergence is.
Well, we're in a new medium. Because of COVID, people have discovered that our lives are connected online. We've connected now about 30 of these Zoom rooms and Trello boards. Well, what is that? A room and board on different topics like veganism and global transformation, like on peace and spirituality. So each room is stewarded by experts in a field who are bringing together some of the most inspiring ideas, innovations, insights, tools, practices, and they're presenting in these rooms, and we're going live out onto social media. So UP is unity and peace. UP is waking up, growing up, cleaning up, showing up, lifting up. We're all moving up. This is the time for us to up our game, given the challenges that we're all facing. And we've discovered we did this during World Unity Week. And this one is converging with Peace Weekend, which is the International Day of Peace. So unity and peace are aligning and motivating each other and inspiring each other. And like, we're thrilled to have Dr. Rao here and the whole conversation about veganism. So the Convergence is a space for experts to come together and share with each other and to get the word out and inspire others to join with us.
And so when I was on the Zoom call yesterday learning about it, basically my head was exploding the whole time, because this is a whole new world called MIRO. And right. Each one of these colors has a complete room in it, a playground where people can learn about different things. One of the green colors is veganism. Dr. Rao, the fact that you were involved in it, I said, absolutely, we want to be involved. Jane Unchained wants to be involved. So every day for the entire UP Convergence at 12:30 Pacific, we are going to be doing Lunch Break Live. I'm first up this Friday. There I am with my veggies ready to dive into the kitchen. So how did you hear about this, Dr. Rao? You're such a visionary and forward thinking. You always find the way to move forward the concept of evolution, peace, nonviolence, specifically in our diets, not eating violence, not eating death. And so one of the rooms is veganism, which you are going to be stewarding, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, no, this is amazing. No, to me, this is the Woodstock of the peace movement. It's happening, because it's happening on time, because it has to happen now. Otherwise, we are going to be going down the wrong path. So I'm so glad that Jon and Becky and Ben and Peter had the vision, and Rick, everyone involved at the UP Convergence had the vision to include peace with animals, veganism, because that's when we converge. When we converge at the summit of the Desjardins Visionary Mountain, there are no slaughterhouses there. There are no animal experiment labs there, so. And it's a place of true peace that we are converging towards. So with integrity. So I'm so glad.
A horrible nightmare that would not exist in the evolved universe where animals are treated as commodities and tossed in dumpsters, thrown away, depopulated when if there's too many of them, which of course there are. I want to applaud Jon and Becky for bringing in and allowing the whole notion of veganism into your conference, because I've personally had the experience with a lot of so-called spiritual movements and organizations not wanting to look in that particular mirror. How did you make that decision? Because I'm hoping that you would inspire others who hope to make this a better world, whether it be conservation groups, environmental groups, many of the groups that purport to really want to end violence, encourage peace, and reverse climate change. And yet this very primal issue of food and what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat is one of the really most stubbornly entrenched resistance areas, Becky.
Yes, it is an incredible opportunity for everybody who cares about animals to meet and to learn more things in the veganism and global healing room that Dr. Rao is cultivating. We have many other rooms that are intending messages of peace and unity, and each of us are walking on our paths and discovering different ways to reach that summit that Dr. Rao is talking about. And so this room is one of many rooms, and we're really grateful to be able to bring people together. The UP Convergence represents unity and peace. That's what UP in the UP Convergence stands for. And as we have all of these opportunities to learn from each other and each other's journeys, we aspire towards unity and peace and co-creating that on Earth.
And what are some of the other rooms then? We have the vegan room. I'm going to be very involved in that, thanks to Dr. Rao. What are some of the other rooms that people can get involved in when they go to peaceweekend.org and sign up? It's coming up.
Yes, we have 25 different rooms, and when you go to that website, you'll be able to look and see a map of all of the different rooms. One of the rooms that I'm curating is called the Garden of Joy Fuel room. And inside that room will be presentations and invitations for people to join us in a Zoom room and do different things that explore what it's like to cultivate our own path towards joy, and how do we reanimate joy, especially during these times of radical change and opportunity. So that's one theme of 25, and you've heard of Veganism room. And then we have the Caravans of Unity room, where we'll be showcasing different Caravans of Unity events that are happening as the Caravan of Unity is traveling across the United States and across Europe between August 28th and September 28th. So there'll be lots of different opportunities for people to see the global presence that is happening through the UP Convergence, because this truly is a global movement that has been afforded because of the coronavirus situation. We are all now here at home, and we have an opportunity to reevaluate and realign our lives and the choices that we're making towards the things that we need towards healing in this world.
And it's so interesting because when the virus first hit, and of course, like everybody, I was very confused and wondering, what does this mean? And I talked to Dr. Rao, and he gave me the words that allowed me to experience this not with total equanimity and serenity by any means. I did yell at my neighbor the other day, but just being honest. But you said, Dr. Rao, this is nature doing an intervention, telling the human race, go to your room, think about the way you've been behaving, and either come out evolved or you're done. I see John nodding his head.
John. It's exactly right. I mean, the conversations that we're willing to have now are more challenging. We're willing to have the more difficult conversation about racism, the inequalities in our world. We do need to, it's like that Etch-a-Sketch moment where we shake the whole thing up and say, okay, time out. And maybe the fact that we've been locked down and quarantined is now giving us the capacity to connect like we haven't before and deal with some of these issues that have been difficult conversations, that have been the sacred cows that we've avoided. That's what's so inspiring about this. We're going to be dealing, with all of the subjects. And that's why everyone's welcome to come and host an open space session. If they're not part of one of these convergence rooms, we think that we, the people, recognize this is a unique moment in history. We're somewhere between no longer and not yet. And it's a moment of choice for us to choose what that future is going to be. That's why coming together and rising up together is the spirit of this whole gathering. And it is unprecedented. We've had over 250 presentations submitted just in the last couple of days.
I was going to ask you, how many people have signed up and registered to be a part of this? Becky?
We're growing all the time, and we have, like Jon said, we've got over 200 presentations, and they're still coming in. And we have we create a presenter card for every single person who is presenting during the UP Convergence in the different rooms. And actually, I don't know what our current numbers are, but we have each person who's presenting is inviting their people to come. So if you take 200 people who are presenting, we're bringing everybody together. That's the whole point of the UP Convergence, is this opportunity for us to come together, and not only in a convergence room. So we have programming. We also are going to have an open up space forum where everybody can gather in the same Zoom room at the same time and communicate and break out into smaller groups to discuss not just what the problem is, but what are the solutions that we need, and how do we actually activate change. So it's not just talking and listening and learning, it's actually having an experiential learning, and so that we can share and figure out these solutions together.
And it seems like the clock is ticking. You see the heat wave here in California, people literally being snatched via helicopter out of areas where they're surrounded by flame. Dr. Rao, you have written a white paper about the impact of animal agriculture on climate, and you have said, and that's one of the reasons I did a documentary on you, Countdown to Year Zero, which is going to be available in the film festival area of this incredible UP Convergence. So excited. One of those on the left, you see the purple, lavender is film festival. So there's a whole virtual film festival. You said essentially at the trajectory we're going, we will have almost no wildlife vertebrates by 2026. And that's right. The documentary is called Countdown to Year Zero. Do you see us now accelerating to the point of no return? Because when you originally said that was 2 years ago that I heard you say it, and now we're only 6 years away.
Right. But at the same time, we are doing the UP Convergence, so which is a tremendous pull in the other direction, right? So, I look at it as if we are on the top of a mountain. We are seeing the promised land and what it looks like. And then we also see a cliff on the side that if we keep going down this way, we're going to fall off the cliff. So, but there is another way, and that's what we are working. We're sculpting the other way. And the other way, which takes us to the promised land safely, requires us to take step by step. So you ask, what is the next step that we need to take? And so we're going to propose during the UP Convergence in one of the open space sessions, we're going to propose that the next step we need to take is to feed everybody healthy, immune boosting vegan food.
Oh, okay? I love it.
Let's do that. Let's all get together and do that. And we can, when we come together as people and do that, because, on the planet, even if the number of hungry people is going to double, so let's say 1.6 billion people are going to be hungry by the end of this year, as they're projecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That means there are 6.2 billion people who are not hungry. And in our family, if 4 people are eating, we will never let the 5th person go hungry, right? So why can't we as a species come together and feed everybody? Right. Let's do that with healthy food, right?
Yeah, one of the things that we emphasize is that there are 7.8 billion humans on the planet, and there are 70 billion land animals, cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, goats, and lambs who are killed every year for food, who eat so much more than humans. Right. And one of the things that you lay out, Dr. Rao, in your white paper is that the amount of food that goes to feeding farm animals, is exponentially greater than the amount of food that is fed directly to people. 75% of all soy fed to farm animals. So if we redirected that soy away from the farm animals and to the people, we could end world hunger. We could live in a world of natural abundance. You say it a lot better. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because the fundamental premise of the UP Convergence is peace. Obviously, hunger is the antithesis of peace. No one is peaceful when they're hungry. So how do those two dovetail, Dr. Rao?
Yeah, it's not just hunger for the people who don't have enough food to eat, but sickness for the people who have too much to eat. That's the way we have split it up now. And no one is happy, right? Even the rich people are eating bad foods because that's what we've been taught, and we are getting sick. We're getting diabetes, heart disease, all kinds of problems. So it's about saying enough. We can actually change the way we eat and live, so that we can feed everyone healthy. At least healthy immune boosting food should be freely available to everyone to eat. Okay, so it's a choice you make. And as you said, our animals are eating almost 5 times as much food as we eat today. That's not me saying, that's the IPCC saying it, right? So that's their statistic. So they're saying it.
Of course. You see these animals, what they're kept in confined areas so that all they do is eat so they can be fattened up to be slaughtered. They don't want them to move around because that burns calories. So that's why they keep them in confined spaces. So we know that the UP Convergence is talking about a lot of issues, not just that. It's great that is a factor and a part of it, Jon, because, from our perspective, it filters into everything. If you look at the coronavirus, it's a zoonotic disease that jumped from animals to humans and was first spotted in Wuhan, China. And those who first came down with it had a connection to a slaughterhouse. And of course, SARS was the same situation in a different province in China. So whether you look at that, whether you look at human health, 1 out of every 4 people dying of heart disease, the underlying problem as we see it is the consumption of animals, the climate change issue, the destruction of habitat, and that leads to wildlife extinction, the methane gas increasing the Earth's temperature, along with the reduction of forests for cattle grazing land and to grow crops to feed animals. When we put on that set of glasses, that is the set of glasses, we see all the world's problems through that lens. Is that an issue for you? Are you having, are you going to try to balance that with others who might not have those glasses?
Well, here's the issue. It's like Dr. Rao was saying, if we don't change our direction, we're likely to wind up where we're headed. We need to change, and change is hard, and we need behavior change at scale. So it's something that starts from within. It's a personal choice. Every one of us has these moments of choice right now. We're proposing, let's rise up together to make the kind of changes we need to have, to make the changes within our families, whether it's changing our diet, changing our way of addressing the unconscious biases we have towards each other. We are so divided right now. The only way out is up. And for us, we want these conversations to be on the table, and we want people to have the courage to be able to think differently. If we don't think differently, things will not be different. If we don't do things differently, they're not going to be different. We've got to change, and change is easier to do with others, where you make commitments to each other and say, okay, let me try changing my diet for 60 days and see what happens to me. Let me try changing the way I'm using fuel and the way that I'm choosing how do I spend my money. You vote with your dollars. Every day we're making choices that make a difference. And we need to create a way in which we can rise together with being new. We've got to be better, be healthy, be kind, and come back better.
Now, let me ask you about, this is obviously a global phenomenon. What are you doing in terms of languages and different parts of the world?
Good point. We're going to be using Zoom. We're relying heavily on this. So we had during the World Unity Week a ton of participation from indigenous leaders from South America, part of the reunion of the eagle and the condor. So in these Zoom rooms now, we can have translation, real-time translation occur. So for those rooms, there's a group that's from Russia that's going to be involved, a group from South America is going to be involved, Europe's going to be involved, and we're going to make it easier for people to experience what's it like. I mean, even just trying to figure a global event, like when does the day start, right? We haven't thought about these things before. These, like, we're trying to use universal, this UTC time, and just to get everyone to agree on a time thing. I mean, we're one more time finding those very basics to be able to relate to each other. And language is one of them. We've got to overcome that Tower of Babel.
Yeah. Well, I was on this Zoom call. There you see me with the big hair up there. And I had to take a nap after that. I did, because it was like I was trying to absorb all this information. This is an entire world under MIRO, and then there's Trello, and there's cards, and you can enjoy playgrounds, and you can be a steward, and you were all talking like a different language. And of course, I just emailed Dr. Rao, talk me through this. Let's make an appointment today at 2 p.m. How did you discover, and I'll throw this to Jon, this virtual world? We all know about Zoom now. In fact, animal sanctuaries have animals who are participating in Zooms. It's called GoToMeeting. Maybe you should get them involved. That would be fun to have an animal participant. Seriously.
I'm serious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But how did you discover this world? Because one thing is Zoom. Another is 1,000 Zoom rooms,
right,
with a different color, and you see those little cards over there. Those are, you could put a whole encyclopedia in each card. It's very overwhelming.
It can be, right? So learning, takes patience, it takes practice and time. And we're in a new medium of communication, so you can change the practices. This is synchronous, real time. We're now discovering video conferencing. We're discovering how to use social media, but complement, like going live like this, these live broadcasts and live video conferences with these tools that allow us to collaborate together. So the thing like Trello that we use, each of these convergence rooms, which is a Zoom room, has a Trello board. On that board, they're organizing all these presentations. So each convergence room gets a room and a board, and those boards exist. People can come and look at those anytime and discover who are making these presentations, discover about them, discover about where else they'll be presenting throughout the convergence. So the technology, I mean, we're all upping our game. We've learned Zoom in the last 6 months. I mean, we were using Zoom for years, but now it's like there was an exodus to start to move into this virtual online world. And I don't think we found the limits. My wife has danced with hundreds of people in Zoom rooms, ceremonies in Zoom rooms. You can really get connected in a way that is good enough to build the trust you need to make the changes we got to do. It's
now,
not perfect.
You had a background that you did this in business. I think that's really interesting, because this is a very long process, and I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with it on day 2, but I'm still, it's a steep learning curve. So what did you do in business that allowed you to build up this knowledge that allowed you to create this UP Convergence?
Well, I had a good teacher who knew that computers weren't for computation, but for communication and large scale networks, and that we really are in the network age. So what we did was we linked up law firms to change the way they managed their relations with their clients and coordinated their work and introduced some standardized practices that really changed the way law is practiced. But then the world changed for me when I realized I need to get involved and do some service in the world. And I met Hereditary Chief Phil Lane, and we visioned deep social networks. The indigenous world has so much to teach us, how to be stewards of our world as opposed to owners of our world. And his guiding principles are at the heart of these deep social networks. And it's a simple statement: starting from within, working in a circle, in a sacred manner, we heal and develop ourselves, our relationships, and the world. And that's at the heart of all the work we've done with Compassionate Cities, with the Compassion Games, the work of Unity Earth, and so many of us that have formed this alliance to bring about behavior change at scale. I mean, we mean business in the best way. This is serious. People are on fire right now. I mean, you wake up every day, and what is it going to take for us to realize that we can't keep going down the same path? So
I have a provocative question for you. Because we're in a world where there's something called alternative facts, which to me, that's a lie. I'll give you an example. Right now, they're trying to destroy the last coastal wetlands in Los Angeles, bulldoze the whole thing, bulldoze it. And they're calling it a restoration. And critics say it's the fossil fuel industry trying to just rejigger their wells that are down there. So how do you monitor that? If somebody were to come in and say, well, I'm going to have this peace movement or this restoration movement, and they're actually doing the exact opposite, which we know is happening a lot right now culturally. What are your filters for preventing that from just taking over?
Yeah, it is a post-truth world, Jane. And the problem with propaganda isn't that people start to believe it, is people believe nothing. It's very hard to know what to believe. Therefore, we need these kind of filters, and it's peer-to-peer diplomacy. The institutions are not working. They're failing us. We need to unite, and we need to come together in authentic, honest, trust-building conversations in which we can make the kind of commitments we need to stop this insanity.
But do you have filters? Like if somebody were to come in, I mean, I'll just, an example off the top of my head, somebody who shall remain nameless, who's somewhat infamous, had said, you know, let's kill tens of thousands of elephants in Africa because they're stomping on the ground. And that's some kind of theory. Yeah. Well, those animals were killed. That person still out there. I mean, what if that person wants to come in and say, hey, let's do something else that may be actually very counterproductive? How do you, and I think this, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just trying to understand, how do you monitor who gets to play in your playground?
Yep. I could speak to that, but I don't want to keep being the only one talking here. Either Becky. Okay.
No, it's important, Jon. Yeah, I think, Jon. Well, I think in my experience with World Unity Weekend, with the UP Convergence, everybody's intention that has been gravitating towards the words unity and peace thus far, we are all on our own individual journeys, and we're all having our own individual struggles with what peace looks like inside of ourselves and in the world. And so if I were to encounter somebody that was representing in that way, I would honor their truth and I would talk with them. We haven't had that happen, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm not being naive, but we have had situations where people are not in agreement. But the beauty is we take time with each other. And as Jon was saying, this is built on trust. This is all co-creative and co-collaborative. And everyone is invited to go up with us. And so towards that, when people are looking at which boards they should visit and engage with content, for me personally, I encourage people to look for the things that they have wonder and curiosity about and joy towards as they're visiting these different things, because it can be overwhelming. There are so many issues, but each of us has gifts to give, and each of us has a filter that we can use that can say, this makes me feel like I can accomplish something. This makes me feel like I can do something. And we encourage people to choose those rooms and those presentations that resonate with them in that way, what we can do, what is possible, and try not to go into the overwhelm.
Thank you. And I hope you don't mind me asking, because, I think that it was something that occurred to me, and I think it's something that a lot of organizations, deal with. Dr. Rao, first of all, I want to thank you for introducing me to these amazing people. What's your thought on where these kinds of events are going? It seems like, I know in history, pandemics have been times of transformation. In the Middle Ages, when the pandemic hit, it really transformed Europe from a strictly feudalistic society to a more modern age where there was more interaction between the nobles and the serfs and the clergy and the merchants. And that led to ultimately the introduction of like the Renaissance, etc. Do you see this time, Dr. Rao, as equally transformative, and where is it transforming to?
Oh, it is absolutely transformative at the moment, because as Jon pointed out, we have lost trust in institutions completely. Because we see them saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. They're saying that the pandemic came from animals, and then they go and say that slaughterhouses are critical infrastructure. What the heck? It's like you're doing the exact opposite of what you just said. So it's like we are running this Monte Carlo simulation where we are making these pandemics pop up from these animals, and then we are continuing to do that once something pops up. So we have lost trust in institutions, which means that we now have to figure out how to organize ourselves differently than the way we've been doing all along. So that is why this is such a transformative movement. And the fact that the internet is allowing us, and these technologies are allowing us to coordinate our actions across the whole world. Millions of us can come together now and do things in concert, which wasn't possible even 20 years ago, right? Or even 10 years ago.
Right.
So it is the right time for us to build a new civilization based on integrity and the truth, and where we actually do what we say. When we say all people are created equal, we actually implement that. When we say everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we actually implement that. Not the exact opposite. Because right now we say everyone has the right to life, and then we tell everyone you have to earn a living, which is the exact opposite of telling them they have the right to life. Because that says that if you don't do what the master wants, you're going to have to die.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and you introduced me to the nuances of artificial scarcity, that scarcity creates profit. And if we could live in a world of natural abundance where everybody has everything they need to eat and a roof over their head, but in terms of, for example, the animal agriculture industry, that creates the scarcity by creating the inefficient food source that uses up all the food so that people are going hungry. And so this is a time where we get to re-examine it. I wish that everybody was involved in this UP Convergence. That's the thing. It's like sometimes the people who have the insight to join something like this are already on the journey to evolution. And there are so many other people who need to start thinking differently, who may not be aware of this. Is that a conundrum for you? Final thoughts, Jon, and how do you handle that? How do you get people in the tent who really need to hear this information?
By making sure it's accessible to everybody. So there's a critical mass of people. We don't know what that number is, but we'll get there. And they're going to be united. Right now, still the silo effect is what's keeping us divided. But there is a grand strategy emerging. We know we need to deal with climate. We know we need to deal with peace. We know we need to deal with development. We need to deal with the way money systems operate. We need to deal with the way these knowledge systems operate. There's a coalescing around a critical thinking that's allowing us to rise together. We're going to see it. We're not going to stop until there's enough people to make that change. This is our time. This is what we were born for. We all sense that. We're not going to miss this. What does Rahm Emanuel say? A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We are not going to waste this crisis.
Well, Becky, I will give you the last word.
Oh, well, I'm just so grateful that we were able to be here today to share this invitation with everyone to join us at the UP Convergence. And we invite you to join us and have your own personal experience with your own personal transformation through the UP Convergence as you learn and join other people around the world and as we move to unite the world together. So thank you so much.
And just go to peaceweekend.org, sign up, get involved. This is very exciting. I am so honored and humbled to be involved. Thank you, Jon. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Dr. Rao. And let's move it up.
Move it up.
Woo!
Yes.